Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UWSA 2026 General Elections All Candidates Debate for the position of President. My name is Ghallia Hashem, and I have the honor of serving as your Chief Returning Officer for this election season. The purpose of today's debate is to give the presidential candidates the opportunity to face their platforms, explain their priorities, and engage with key issues facing students at the University of Windsor. A reminder to our candidates and the attendees that this debate is being conducted in accordance with the UWSA elections policy. Civility, respect, and professionalism are expected at all times. This debate is being recorded and will be posted on UWSA platforms. It is also being live streamed. Hello to everyone watching. The candidate will now have 1 minute to deliver their opening statement. A 15-second warning will be issued before time expires. Once time is up, the candidate must conclude their remarks. We will now begin with opening statements. Victorious, you may now begin.
All right, thank you, Ghallia. So first of all, hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here. So my name is Victorious Sambao, aka Vicky, and I'm currently running to be your next UWSA president. I am in my 3rd year of law and politics, and I currently serve as your UWSA Student Respect and Empowerment Office Coordinator. I am also your CJCR or your French Club co-president, as well as your Outstanding Scholars Student Council co-vice president as well. I'm today running, and for the entirety of this entire campaign, running on 3 key pillars. The first one is the Student Net Fund. The second one is the Multicultural Festival, and finally, the last one is called the No Wrong Door Initiative. And I hope that during this debate and during the entire talk with you guys can learn a little bit more about my platform and why exactly I want to integrate this into the UWSA, because I believe the UWSA should continue to be for the students, by the students, and with the students as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now move on to the rapid fire round. This round consists of yes or no questions only. The candidate will indicate their response using the paper they are currently holding. If they agree with the statements, they will be holding up yes. If they disagree, they will be holding up no. No explanations or rebuttals are permitted during this portion of the debate. Question 1. Should UWSA publicly oppose university policies it believes harm students, even if it risks damaging relationships with administration? 3, 2, 1, please show your answer. Vicky has picked yes. Question 2. Should student leaders prioritize long-term structural change over short-term visible wins? In 3, 2, 1, please show your answer. Vicky has chosen yes. Question 3. Would you support increasing student fees if the funds were earmarked specifically for mental health services? In 3, 2, 1, please show your response. Vicky has chosen yes. Question 4. Should UWSA take formal positions on major social or political issues that affect students beyond campus? In 3, 2, 1, please show your response. Vicky has said no. Question 5. Should executives be required to publish detailed quarterly progress reports on their platforms? In 3, 2, 1, please show your response. Vicky has said yes. Question 6. Would you vote to cut funding from popular events if the funds could instead go to emergency financial aid? In 3, 2, 1, please show your response. Vicky has said yes. Question 7. Should UWSA executives be held to stricter accountability standards than other student leaders? In 3, 2, 1, please show your response. And Vicky has picked yes. Question 8. Should UWSA prioritize advocacy over service delivery when resources are limited? In 3, 2, 1, please show your response. Vicky has said yes. Question 9, would you support removing or disciplining an executive who is underperforming even if it destabilizes your leadership team? In 3, 2, 1, please show your response, and the answer is yes. And question 10, should the president support public town halls specifically to address failures or controversies within the UWSA? In 3, 2, 1, and the answer is yes. We will now move on to the platform challenge section of the debate. The candidate will be given 3 questions designed to directly examine or challenge their platform. The candidate will then have 1 minute to respond. No rebuttals will be given during this section. Question 1. Your platform includes creating a student net fund for short-term financial relief. How would you design this fund so it does not become a substitute for institutional responsibility? And what safeguards would you put in place to ensure it is fair, sustainable, and not overwhelmed by demand?
Thank you for your question. So one of my main campaign platforms, I believe one of my strongest one, is called the Student Net Fund, where this fund would specifically be curated to help alleviate temporary financial stress for students so that we continue to actually be in the classroom. We all are students first, and we should continue to be students first. So in order to when I was thinking of designing this fund, one of the main things that I was looking to integrate was either on a scholarship basis, so that the students would be able to apply about once throughout the entire academic year, and we would make sure that this isn't taken advantage of. And you may be wondering how exactly we'll be doing that. It is an emergency fund, and emergency funds are used specifically, obviously, in cases of emergencies. So with this Student Net Fund, my main priority in this case is to make sure, once again, for students to be in the classroom at all times, and that we continue to be in the classroom rather than working extra hours and trying to achieve our academic goals in that way.
Thank you. On to question number 2. You framed being a new face as a strength. What is one risk that comes with not having prior board experience, and how would you mitigate that risk in your first term?
Thank you for the question. So when I say new face, I mean that I never served on the board, even if I was the UWSA SRO coordinator. A new face not only brings new perspectives, but a new face would also ask questions. One risk that will 100% come with this is the structural demand that will come with the position, especially as president. I fully recognize that because I was not on the board first and foremost, that there are some things I need to adapt to and there are some things I need to learn. But these are all experiences that will be required once I step into this role as president. And one way I would mitigate that would be using my previous experience as presidents, as co-vice presidents, as a student leader with every single leadership position I have had in order to be the best president if elected.
Thank you. On to question 3. What is the first concrete action you would take in your first 30 days as president to move one of your initiatives from proposal to implementation? And what is the first obstacle you expect to face?
Thank you again for the question. One of the initiatives I would hope as much as possible start implementing within my first 30 days as president would be the No Wrong Door initiative. My work as the UWSA's SRO has actually made me see how much we struggle sometimes to get an answer, and that shouldn't be the case. And so one thing that I really want to do within my first 30 days is to continue to meet with students, but specifically with the presidents of societies. So I know for a fact that the president of the UWSA has the President's Council in which they meet with different presidents. And so I want to be able to bring the No Wrong Door initiative to them, see exactly what we can do structurally, and continue to build on a framework to design this No Wrong Door initiative to alleviate this uncertainty when it comes to not know where to go in times of need, and making sure that staff and also faculty can point students in the right direction in that way.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move on to general questions called global questions that deal with the position as a whole. So the first question is, how should the UWSA president balance being an outspoken advocate for students while maintaining working relationships with university leadership and external stakeholders who control resources students rely on?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
How should the UWSA presidents balance being an outspoken advocate for students while maintaining working relationships with university leadership and external stakeholders who control resources students rely on?
Thank you for your question. So obviously one of the things I said during my campaign was for the students, by the students, with the students. However, I also realized that if elected as president, these relationships with the institution and with the administration are fundamental to be able to move forward with all of the initiatives that the UWSA wants to put forward, with the work that the UWSA wants to continue to do. So yes, although I will forever be for the students, there's also that part that I need to be able to structurally balance, not only with the executive, but also with myself, in order to combat that. So one of the ways that we can definitely do it is obviously bringing student problems actually to the board and being able to properly not only negotiate, but speak about them so that decisions will reflect what students actually need at the university.
Thank you so much. Your second question. With changes to OSAP and rising costs of living, what is the most meaningful role student governance can realistically play in addressing affordability, and where does UWSA's responsibility end?
The UWSA is your point of contact when it comes to advocacy. They are your student governance. And so with the rising cost of living and with the cuts to OSAP, or like the framework reversal, one of the main things that I have pushed when I am speaking to you guys as a presidential candidate was, again, the student net fund and the no wrongdoer initiatives. There are certain things that UWSA can do in order to make sure that you feel supported. And one of the things that we can continue to do is to obviously be very communicative about the steps that the UWSA is taking in order to make sure that you do not feel alone. And so where does the UWSA responsibility end? I won't say that the fight will ever end, because it's something that we are facing every single day. However, there are certain ways that we can push for certain policies, initiatives, and decisions to be held in place, and that's where I think the most actionable things will be sustained.
Thank you. And then for your last question in this section, when student movements demand that UWSA take a strong public stance on controversial issues, how should the president decide when to speak, when to stay neutral, and how to protect the organization from institutional backlash?
The UWSA should remain nonpartisan. This is because they represent all students, not only one group, not one community, but all communities that are reflected at the University of Windsor. However, I do also recognize that there will be some things that happen in the future, and even currently, that will demand some type of response. One of the things that UWSA can do is to show that, obviously that we care, but also make sure there are actual things and services that can support students, especially on the mental health side, especially on the action side, trying to alleviate stigmatization, racism, and any sort of discrimination that comes with any sort of strong controversial issue is one of the main things that UWSA should continue to do, and I hope to continue to do, hopefully if elected as president.
Thank you very much. We are now going to do a 15-minute intermission. You'll note that there's a QR code on the screen. I would like for you all to scan that QR code and leave questions that you'd like to ask your presidential candidate, Vicky, and we're going to have a section dedicated to that. But before that, Vicky gets to debate directly with myself. So take the 15 minutes. Vicky, go prepare. We're going to have a great debate.
Okay. I'm scared. My question is, you want to ask you questions? Sure. Ask Vicky, she's the one running, I'm not running. No, but we don't do it. That's crazy.
You can sit here. Is this yours?
Ghallia?
Yeah. Don't worry. So you're just holding it down and then clean up. She's getting back in her roots. Go back to her roots. I'm gonna watch online. I hope this is still being live streamed on it.
Lots of questions.
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm still thinking about my question. Sorry?
Yes.
Yes.
Possible, madam.
The situation we just today, my campaign picture posted a picture of me at the debate. Is that still okay? Yeah. Okay.
Is this 15 minutes? Is that my alarm?
I'm assuming I heard something go on. It's 7 o'clock.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think we still have 5.
We'll go with 5. It's going to go by.
Give 6.
Is it just Luke and Maya?
Even when I was running the fast rally, you should do it. Do it. Do it here. If all places, I've been running for front of this ice cream, and they still like target like every song comes up.
I think we should scooch you guys together a little more.
I'm just saying, like, it's up to you. Sass. But like that's the stuff. Like that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like that's why I don't want to say it.
Yeah, that's better. Better.
Can you train me?
Guys, it's up to 1 hour, please. Seriously.
You want to do this for mom?
I drink a monster soda.
This is a punishment for her.
Oh, I think it's a.
Actually, I have 1 minute.
Hold on. Just breaking the rules. Computer versus Nintendo. Is that ChatGPT? Is it ChatGPT?
That's hard part where erase it, like,
ChatGPT says.
Sorry.
Any further questions?
I don't know what questions to ask.
Yeah. Wave.
Can I not time this?
No, you want to time it. You want me to yap?
No.
Only
You want me to? Yeah.
I'll just tell you when I would cut it when I think you're gone too long. Who's asking the questions? What? Oh, I see. Okay, but like, we need to eat our sushi, so. Why are you stressing her out like this?
It's a test to the role.
You're not gonna let me say
Sit. Sit. Sit.
My nose is literally running.
Okay. I think we should move.
I think we should get a bell.
I think we should start.
Hello, everyone. We are going to start the impromptu debate where I ask Victorious the hard-hitting questions. Are you ready? Okay. So, Victorious, my first question is about your No Closed Door initiative. It promises that students are always going to be guided to the right support no matter where they start. But what happens when the frontline offices, for example, the information desk at the CAW or Claudiana and UWSA, are already overwhelmed and cannot meaningfully take on more triage? How are you going to prevent this from becoming an unfunded mandate on staff and volunteers?
Thank you for your question. So the issue is that I don't want it to get to this specific point. If the front desk is overwhelmed, if, for example, Claudiana is overwhelmed, it means that this initiative or whatever structure that we're trying to implement is not technically working. So with the No Wrong Door initiative specifically, it is to make sure that students know where to go. Because at this point, when I'm thinking about the info desk, when I'm thinking about possibly registrars, when I'm thinking about possibly reaching out to Claudiana, these are not all issues that have to go to them, which is the ultimate reason why the No Wrong Door initiative should be there in the first place. So, just to again clarify, the No Wrong Door initiative will allow for students to know where to go in times of need. But this is not only students. This is something that will also be given to faculty, to departments, and to services so that people actually know where to go in this regard.
So you want to give this platform that you're going to create as UWSA president, essentially, to faculty, to university, to service centers, to other individuals that don't fall under the UWSA. How are you going to guarantee their partnership, and how are you going to guarantee their continued support of this initiative when it's going to ask them to do things that fall outside of their job description?
But that's why I will be involving as well as I can with the societies. So through the President's Council, the president of the UWSA will be speaking to these presidents who have been elected by the respective student societies. And so therefore, they will know exactly what type of problems are actually affecting their students. So although I do recognize that faculty, that staff is not directly mandated under the requirements that the UWSA is trying to establish and push for, it will be unfortunately, or actually I should say fortunately, a necessary task so that everything is streamlined accordingly, efficiently, and fluidly as well.
Thank you. Your next question. So you mentioned the Multicultural Festival. Right now, we have a major multicultural event. It's actually coming up, Celebration of Nations, that already happens on campus. And it takes a great deal of planning. It takes the entire year to plan, actually. And it's across faculties, across platforms, across services, across offices, and fully inclusive of the university community as a whole. What problem does your multicultural festival solve that's not already being addressed? And how would it be meaningfully different rather than duplicative?
I wouldn't say there would be a problem with the Multicultural Festival. If anything, it would be in addition to the campus life that we already have. I wouldn't be upset of also involving the Celebration of Nations in this case with partnership with the UWSA, because at the end of the day, any sort of thing that is multicultural wants to affect the larger student body. So although I understand that this has already been established, my entire positioning with creating the Multicultural Festival would be a beginning of semester event so that students, both new students, so first year students or whoever is entering the university for the first time, as well as returning students can actually feel as though they belong as soon as they re-enter university.
So just to ask a question, I know that when I look out into this room, I see a lot of people who come from various different cultural backgrounds. But now the question becomes, what about people who don't identify with a cultural background other than the culture that they grew up with in Canada? So they don't have another culture to tie themselves into. How would you make sure that they are represented at a multicultural event that usually ends up becoming very overpowered with cultures from different places other than North America?
I think culture is beautiful. I think no matter what, celebrating each other's culture, celebrating each other's culture and embracing that is the main point as to why these multicultural festivals across not only the University of Windsor but across communities is so vastly not only recognized but beautiful. And so even if I do understand that these individuals are only tied to the Canadian identity, there is still an identity with that. And there is still ways to embrace other cultures and feeling as though they belong as well.
Another question. The president is known to wear two very distinct hats. One hat as the president of the University of Windsor Students Alliance, for the students, of the students, by the students, while the other hat is the CEO of a not-for-profit organization. Many people struggle balancing those two hats. Can you tell us more about how you're going to wear the CEO hat and wear the student union president hat and make sure that one does not take priority over the other?
Like everything in life, they need a balance. So as president, for the students, by the students, with the students, my main priorities will be students. However, as CEO, it is the CEO for literal means is the chief executive officer. So at the end of the day, there will be decisions that as president I will need to do because of the role as CEO. However, not all decisions should impede within one another, and they should work cohabitantly so that to ensure that whatever may happen within the UWSA, there is always and forever will be a balance. One thing definitely as CEO is that there will be difficult decisions that will have to be taken. And I recognize, and I won't say it will be easy, and I will not say that it is something that I'm not expecting. However, to alleviate whatever decisions were, as president, communicating clearly to the student body is what matters also the most.
So just to follow up on that, there's a belief that there is laws in theory and laws in practice. In theory, the cohabitation of being CEO and president is very achievable. But in reality, it's very hard. What are you going to do when an issue comes where you have to prioritize being CEO over president, or you have to prioritize being president over CEO? How are you going to explain that to the student body? And how are you going to make sure that they understand why certain decisions are made?
Difficult decisions will be made regardless. And so at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of decisions that hopefully, if elected as UWS president, that I will have to take that the larger student body or some sort of percentage of the student body will not be happy about. However, at the end of the day, when I say there's a balance, it does not mean the balance has to be light. And it does not mean that the balance has to be something that everyone is okay with. But the balance has to be substantial to the role of president and CEO that will benefit the students always. And there will be some decisions, unfortunately, that will not benefit the students, but will probably be seen for the greater good in the long term time of events. And so therefore, there's a lot of things that a lot of people won't probably understand as of right now, but balancing CEO and president will forever and always be something that I will want to try to communicate as effectively as possible and perform as effectively as possible to make sure that both are balanced equally.
My last question for you, Ms. Vicky. I have a lot of questions. I'm like debating which one I should take. I'm debating myself right now. So you mentioned in the rapid fire question that you believe that UWSA should not make political statements outside of the student body. And now my question to you is, the student body is created out of students, and these students face problems. So if the students come up to you and they believe that there is a very important problem that's happening worldwide, and they want you to make a statement as the president of UWSA, how are you going to balance that when you believe that UWSA should remain partisan and apolitical?
Thank you for your question. I will admit, this is generally going against me as Vicky more than Vicky as potential president. And these are decisions that I will have to live with if elected as president, and they're very difficult situations in which me as Vicky would 100% advocate for, full on gung-ho all the way. But there's also has to be that divide between president, because at the end of the day, yes, although I recognize that there's so many things happening in this world, and there's so many concerns that are there, the best thing to do is to support the students mentally and advocate for the students mentally as well. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to being president taking a stance, that stance could be harmful for one and amazing for another. I'm not here as president to make that decision about what is harmful or not. However, to be able to lead an institution, it has to be in some ways nonpartisan, so all students at the end of the day can actually feel as though they belong at University of Windsor, especially through student governments.
And then my rebuttal to your question, or your answer, my apologies. At what point does that neutrality that you just described become complacency? And at what point does trying to make everyone feel safe leave no one feeling safe?
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. At what point does that neutrality that you just explained become complacency? And at what point does trying to make everyone feel safe lead to no one feeling safe?
I believe that everything has limits. And that at the end of the day, if it is a very strong issue that continuously affects a student population, it will be something that at the end of the day, the UWSA has to address. And how I address that will unfortunately have to be very dependent on the situation. But again, when it comes to addressing everything, I won't see it as a matter of compliance, but I'll see it as a matter of standing up within the bounds that I can as president. And although that answer might not be the best answer in this point, there are still a lot of things that as a prospective, I will say UWSA president, that I will need to learn, and that hopefully with this experience, I will be able to actually navigate these challenges within the experience that I have gained one day, hopefully within this role.
Thank you so much, and that concludes the debate with Ghallia section. Woo! We're now going to move on to the audience's questions. We have a couple. We're going to try to go through as many as we can. So the first one we have is, you proposed a student needs fund. How does this differ in purpose and delivery from existing financial hardship scholarships already currently offered by the UWSA? Are you proposing an expansion of scholarships overall? And if so, how does this differ from the scholarship increases already being addressed through the current referendum reallocating funds towards scholarships?
Thank you to whoever asked that question. Actually, while I was preparing for this debate today, I was looking at the referendum question that will be answered, or I say voted on, from March 2nd to March 4th, and I redesigned or added I added another section to the student net funds. So with this referendum, it will allow students to reallocate funds into having a larger scholarship pool. And this scholarship pool, I believe, is about $50,000, I believe, in this case. And so with the student net fund, the reason why I want to implement this was because it was by emergency-based funds. Scholarships, whether it's through the UWSA or through the actual university, is something that you have to apply for and wait the next semester or wait until the next year. This student net fund would be something that is immediate in this case. And although I do not have the current logistics about how it could work, because it could be either relocation funds or through partnerships with the alumni association to get these funds there, it will differ, however, from scholarships that are already there with the UWSA.
Thank you. On to the next question. You've mentioned being a new face as a positive. Let's say a decision arises that neither you nor your executive have prior institutional experience to rely on. How will you determine whether to act decisively or pause for consultation, and who ultimately bears responsibility if that decision proves incorrect?
The responsibility will always fall onto the president. And so whatever decision that has to be taken, it has to be taken with enough information in order to take that actual decision. So I see a new face as a new perspective. I see a new face as asking new questions. I see a new face as change in a way that could be relieving, that could be fundamental to growth within the UWSA. And so, yes, I completely recognize that when you're a new face, you don't have that institutional knowledge. There are executives who have been here for years, there are executives who have been coordinators beforehand, and I will be an executive that has been a coordinator. And although I have not worked directly in the governance of the UWSA, I have seen and I have learned. So therefore, it doesn't mean that I won't be able to reach out to help my previous executives. That option is always still there, and therefore, every single decision that will be taken will always and forever be informed.
Thank you very much. On to the next question. How would you strategically manage strong and different personalities within the executive team to ensure productivity rather than division? Can you describe a specific approach you would take to resolve internal conflict, reconcile opposing viewpoints, and still maintain a unified professional front as UWSA executives?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I can. How would you strategically manage strong and differing personalities within the executive team to ensure productivity rather than division? Can you describe a specific approach you would take to resolve internal conflict, reconcile opposing viewpoints, and still maintain a unified professional front as UWSA executives?
So my leadership style is almost like a servant leadership. So if you don't know what that means, it's basically being of service to other people, especially within a group setting. So I'm someone that loves to collect feedback. I'm someone that loves to collect new ideas. But I'm also someone that would try to find the best decision and the best way possible for everyone. And as president, that's also not something that will always happen. I will have to make difficult decisions. And the executive that I'll be working with will probably have very conflicting personalities. This is something that is not only within UWSA, but within our classrooms, within our workplaces, and X, Y, and Z. However, one way that I want to do, that I would love to do as president would be to make sure that everyone is on the same level of understanding. There are things that I will agree with because of my position as president, and there are things that the VPs will agree with because of the portfolios that they have to maintain. And so being able to come to a decisive conclusion within the bounds that are respectful and proper would be a way that I would alleviate that struggle between personalities.
Thank you. Your next question. You've committed to implementing multiple priorities in your term. Given that the president must first develop a full understanding of UWSA governance, financial controls, and institutional processes, how can you justify implementing initiatives before acquiring that operational knowledge? And if you wait to become fully informed, how do you realistically meet the timelines you've promised?
I, as you've seen, am wanting to implement 3 key things. And realistically, these are not things that will happen in my term. Just like how there were initiatives and frameworks that were implemented by past presidents that are now coming to light. All of these initiatives, whether it's the Multicultural Festival, the No Wrongdoing Initiative, Student Net Fund, are initiatives that will have to be continued. However, I want to lay the foundation in accordance to what exactly I will be learning as I will be learning and acquiring the experience that I will need to effectively bring everything together as your UWSA president. In this case, I do completely acknowledge that, again, new face means that I have no prior institutional knowledge. But just because I don't have the knowledge now does not mean I will not acquire that knowledge later. And that knowledge later will be used to continue every single initiative that is pushed by not only me as president, but the incoming VPs as well, so that it is continued and does not stay only at this next year, but the years after that as well.
Thank you. And your last question. What do you think the former presidency missed out on that you are willing to correct?
Can you repeat the question?
What do you think the former presidency missed out on that you are willing to correct?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, for sure. This is Humblegate. What do you think the former presidency missed out on that you are willing to correct?
Okay, guys,
There's a list.
so UWSA presidency, some of them, please.
Don't talk about mine. So,
One thing that I think, not only like this year's president, but I think during my time at the university, I think that more advocacy can be pushed for. And the reason I say this is because advocacy, generally speaking, is one of the most hardest things to do because it has to be continued. It's not just a decision that you make and then it will flow. It's something that you have to consistently, every single day, work on, push for, and influence. And when there are changes of the executive, that advocacy portion can be missed and will fall through. And I've seen this with my experience as the SREO. However, the executive now and past have continuously tried to continue with that strong advocacy, and I want to continue implementing that as president.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vicki. That ends our audience question and answers. We're now going to move on to your closing statement. You're going to have 1 minute to summarize your message and encourage student participation in the election. I'm not going to rebuttal during this time. You just get to say your piece. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Ghallia. So, thank you again, everyone, for being here. I hope that when you leave this room, you feel inspired or a little bit more curious about what the UWSA is. And I hope that you can walk away knowing that your vote is in good hands when you hopefully elect me as your next UWSA president. You may have noticed that my slogan is actually "Victory Begins with Us." And although I completely recognize that this is a huge play on my name, as my name is Victorious, I want you to remember that Victory Begins with Us is the complete embodiment of the entire campaign and the start of our journey if elected. I'm not saying that everything will be easy because we not only have Bill 33 to focus on, we also have the frameworks of OSAP, but we also have the challenges within our own university. However, when you cast your votes, I just don't want you to think about my slogan. I want to think about the kind of leadership that you want in the room when decisions are made and when your voice has to be the one that is heard the most. And if you want someone who stands, who speaks up, and who genuinely fights for you with purpose, then let's work together to get that person there. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our presidential candidate for your professionalism and your engagement this evening. And thank you to everyone in attendance. Thank you for submitting your questions. Thank you for being here and listening to the platform. A reminder to all students that voting will take place during the official voting period, March 2nd at midnight until March 4th at 5 p.m. Candidate profiles and voting information are available on the UWSA Elections website. Your voice matters. Your vote is how you shape the future of student leadership at the University of Windsor. And with that, we've officially concluded all of our all candidates debates.